Ghana will not be on the ballot sheet come 2024, but the New Patriotic Party is getting ready to elect national executives. As I'm sure you're aware, the chairmanship position is up, vice chairmanship is up, also general secretary and deputy general secretary, organizer, women's organizer, youth organizer, national NASARA coordinator, and treasurer. All these positions are available to be filled by persons who have put themselves up. But this morning, we want to put the spotlight on the general secretary slot. There's six people have put themselves up for this role. Incumbent John Boydu wants to be retained for MC for the Tamale area. Musa Superior also wants to get in. Charles Bisu wants to get in, presidential staffer. And then Frederick Opariansa, former MP for Sum constituency. Justin Kodria Frimpong, CEO of the Youth Employment Authority, and Ramsia Ajaman Prempe, aspirant to 2020 Tema East Parliamentary Primary. So these are the guys who want to be, hopefully, General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. The elections will happen this weekend, and we will be bringing you an extensive coverage of all of that conversation. So we put out a small poll, and we're asking who is best fit for the job. We'll share the details with you, but Bella is here. Bella, so far so good. The race.
I guess so. I guess so, except that when you listen to conversations, it looks as if a number of people want to retain the incumbent because they feel he's done a good job. But if you look at the people who are competing with him, and I remember Musa Superior being here recently and talking about the fact that the party has lost its core values, and it's incumbent on him to bring together to bring about that unity that everybody is expecting. And so that is why he wants to run. Charles Bisu also said something similar. He wants to be the leader of the party as well. So I don't know how voting is going to play out on Saturday.
If you look at
the
arsenals that are being directed at John Boydu, for example, and the likes of the Honorable candidate Japan and many other party stalwarts who have indicated that the people who, for example, are leading the party at this time and giving the pressures that the government is undergoing, forget Russia, forget Ukraine, forget COVID, things naturally, or if you like, are not all the best. And even party stalwarts are saying that, look, if it's these same guys who are leading us into the next election, they cannot get the job done. You can't trust them to break the 8. John Boydo on the reverse says that, look, you can't have an entirely new team because Samuel Uku is not running anymore. I'm told he has interests, seeking to go to Parliament. Freddie Blay, who came from the CPP, became the NPP's chairman, is not interested in the slot anymore. That slot is also keenly being contested. And so many other persons are not interested. What John Boydu says is that, look, you need an experienced hand because you cannot leave it for a fresh crop of candidates or executives to come in and handle it, because the largest opposition party, which is the NDC, will not wipe out all the executive. In fact, at best, we do know that there are persons who want to inch up, onto other roles. General Secretary, for example, Director of Election Services, Priyanka, has indicated that he wants to be General Secretary of the NDC and so on and so forth. So John Boydu's argument is that you can't have an entirely new team going into an election and having a machinery that's fresh, has not been tested before. So you need that fulcrum to be in there to run it. Mr. Superior is right to say this. No. So I don't know, but given the function of the General Secretary of the political party, it begs the question as to whether or not it's just about the title or about the name. How is the General Secretary, if any of the 6 wins, how are they moving forward going to hold together the party? Because the conversations about rancor, about acrimony, about bickering, about disaffection, all of those conversations in there, Edidija and all those things that Divine Agohum, who has been retained as regional chairman, said, those matters still persist. How do you get the average NPP person, the grassroots NPP person, to tag along? To say, I want to mobilize for a 2024 win, breaking the 8 for the NPP. I want to go and queue and vote. And we have all seen how the elections, right from the constituency level up to the regional level, have gone. So if that's anything to go by, some were retained, some were shown the exit. It's quite dicey for John Boyd at this point.
It is, absolutely. And if you look at the position and who is occupying it on the side of the NDC, you need someone who can also match. That's if General Asiedu Nketia wants to go again. But if he retains, if he decides to run again and he retains, then you need someone who is also at that level that can match him when it comes to the work that he has also done for the party. So it's a very critical election that they are going into. And I hope that they consider all of that as they vote for whoever they think deserves or would do the exact job that they're expecting for them. If they are looking to break the 8 as well, then it's a very critical matter.
The NPP naturally is a capitalist party. So they are interested in, as somebody said in the past, property owning democracy, building businesses and making sure that individuals, entrepreneurship is at the center of what they do. That will engender national development. But then again, the NPP is known to be the elitist party. And there have been concerns about people who have brought themselves forward to lead the party, whether they fit into that elitist tag or if the NPP is diluting or drifting away from what it originally was known for. And that brings the conversations about, okay, so Musa Superior, for example, he looks foppish, he looks dandy, he speaks with a lot of energy. He says that's what you need to combat what John Mahama says, boot for boot, do or die, whatever it is that they're saying. You need somebody like him to fight it. Charles Bissue, on the other hand, is that cool, calm, collected, prim, proper gentleman. You know, that kind of person. He wants to play paper strategy, get on the ground, work silently, and not get people to be pointing accusing fingers. Is that what the NPP needs now? Because, again, then the NPP, in recent history, has carved a certain bad niche for themselves. Ayawaso West Wagon is there, and Kranza North is there, Ejura is there, Odododo is there, you know, the Shanti region. So all of the Islamic SHS, all of those conversations seek to put a certain tag on the NPP. Are they becoming as violent as they said their arch rivals are? And if that's the case, do we need somebody like Charles Bissue to tone things down? Justin Kudiafrimpong seems to have a bit of this and a bit of that in terms of poise and finesse, in terms of gravitas. He seems to have it. He seems to be covering a lot of ground. But then again, there's that new kid on the block, so to speak, who is not so loud out there, who is not campaigning on the silver screens, but is out there on the grounds working. That's the Ramsia Prempe. I mean, you travel around the countryside, and the conversations in the constituencies are that he's covering grounds. Is that enough to get him to win? Or will it be a conversation about moneycracy? Who has more money gets to win the slot? Or will it be about service to the party? You know, people who have served from electoral area come towards the zones, come towards the constituencies, even regional, national levels. Would that be the criteria for selection? I mean, so many things come in the mix. But what are the public saying, Bella?
Exactly, and I'll get to that shortly. But also the issue of scandals and whether those would play any critical role. Because if you look at all of them, I mean, at least a number of them have had their fair share of scandals. If we talk about John Boydu, we all know that not too long ago there was a scandal around him. Charles Bissue and the Galamsey scandal as well. Then we have Musa Superior, of course, when it comes to issues about the Forestry Commission, because he was the deputy CEO of the Forestry Commission. He is actually. And so there also have been issues about lands that were, you know, by his recent former boss and all of that. So all those might come to play as well. Are people going to look at how they handled some of these issues to determine if they can really, moving forward, handle that big position as General Secretary?
The Achimota Forest saga, in fact, you would extend it to the Ramsar sites, you know, along the coast and even in the Ashanti region. That matter has not been properly interrogated. The last we remember is that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu-Jinapo, MP for Damongo as well, he mentioned that the ministry had declared all those who owned land there as void and said that they were investigating. What has been the result of that investigation? I know that the Manche and the Traditional Council said they were also investigating. They haven't brought us that report. And the conversations about whether or not land has been grabbed right from the days when we had 494 hectares of land back in 1921, 1927, up until now when it's shrinked, by a large majority. Who are those who own the lands there? And if people indeed own lands, they have been declared void, have construction stopped there? If constructions have not stopped there, how does that give impetus to Musa Superior saying that we will get to look into some of these things? That for me is the big conversation. Again, Charles Bissiou, Galamsey is still on, like it or not. We've been throwing money at Operation Galam Stop, Operation Vanguard, Operation whatever it is. We buy drones, we put military men, police, immigration, national security. But the color of the water is not changing. It's still brown like cocoa beverage. So now the conversation is he fit for it? And for example, if he says he's been exonerated by which process? Was it the police that exonerated him as an investigative body? Was it Shraj? Was it the BNI? Was it the CID? It's important so that credibility is brought to the fore so that those things don't dilute your capacity, first of all, to be able to lead. Because you may be the best candidate to lead, but if people keep throwing things at you and you don't take time to explain, you don't take time to exonerate yourself, it sticks. Propaganda sticks.
But in the case of Charles Bissiou, I remember that the CID put out a report and they said that after investigations, they realized that he followed the laid down rules. And that is why he came out and said that he had been exonerated, in that Galamsey scandal. And so, again, question would be that, will that also play a role in people deciding whether he should be, the General Secretary or not?
Does that settle it? Because remember, Charles Bissiou is the Western Regional Secretary of the NPP. So he has had opportunity to have served like John Boydu right from the grassroots up to the regional level. He gets to sit on the National Executive Committee as well. Question is, if the police exonerated you, has that been wiped out of the minds of the people and even delegates within the party? That is, for me, the conversation. I mean, you can talk about when Musa Superior was mayor of Tamale, and you had the conversations about bandits breaking into the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Suspects were arrested, some, put in the police cells. What has happened to them? So one after the other. While you want to talk about the plaudits of, say, Musa Superior, Sunday market in Tamale, trying to wipe the pavements of hawkers, trying to get things organized and still discipline and all of that. There are the scandals that come up that will always change or if you like, swing the pendulum in a certain way that the aspirants may not be happy about, or which may not favor the aspirants.
That's the thing. And so, let's go on Twitter and take a look at what people are saying about who they think they would vote for at this point. And so we'll start off with the first question. And we said 6 candidates are vying for the position of General Secretary in the NPP. Who is your vote on to win the election? And so we started with, remember that Twitter only allows you to run polls for just 3 people at a time. And so there's a second poll that we'll be looking at. But the first one was Charles Bissiou, Frederick Opariansa, and Justin Kodua Frimpong. And out of 199 votes, we still have 4 hours left. But so far, Justin Kodua Frimpong seems to be in the lead in the first poll. And it says 42.2% of the 199 votes that were cast went in favor of him. And then Frederick Opariansa came in second with 29.1% of the votes, with Charles Bissiou coming in third with 28.6% of the votes. Remember, it's just 199 people that voted for him. Let's go on now to the other poll that was put up as well. And so we had another one, and we had John Boydu, Musa Superior, and Ramsey Ajiman Prempe. Now, in this case, John Boydu, who's the incumbent General Secretary, where is it again? I'm trying to find the number of people that voted.
400, that should be on the lower left.
Okay, 441 votes, and of course 4 hours left. John Boydu polled 60.5% of the votes. Idrisu Musa with 23.8%, and Ramsey 15.6%. And so if you look at all two polls, it looks as if John Boydu is still in the lead, but this is just for Twitter polls, by the way. Will it reflect on the grounds?
Well, you see, so there's about almost 500 votes for the first three, and we had to divide it into two because there are 6 candidates. You can't run a poll for 6 people, so 3 at a time. What this suggests is that the polls with John Boydu in it, maybe with Mr. Superior in it, garnered more votes or had more people, tilting towards it.
Yeah.
And then you come down. You see, I mentioned Ajiman Prempe Ramsey at the beginning. He's been put here, and 15% of 441 votes is more than 30%, if you will, of 199 votes. If you do, say, 15.6 over 100 divided by 441, the percentage points will be more than what you would ordinarily have in the other one, which shows a bit of popularity on the side of the grassroots. But let's also not lose sight of the fact that this is social media, and people could have pseudo accounts, people could be hired to just make a vote or contribute to the poll just to make a certain statement or get a certain narrative to stick. But the final conversation is with the delegates. How are the delegates being convinced that, it is possible to retain, say, a John Boydu? When, at the time John Boydu came in, the NPP had 169 seats. Yeah. The Kwabena J. Japan era, following that with the suspension of him, Samikra, Paul Afoko as chairman, vice chairman, and general secretary. John Boydu came into the picture from his role first as national organizer. Okay. Yeah. Now he transitioned into this. The NPP had 169 seats in parliament. The NDC had 106 seats in parliament. Fast forward to the 2020 election. The NPP now has 137 seats. The NDC had 137 seats. There's one independent candidate who's doing business with the NPP. But either ways, 169 reduced to 137 is something. It is. So who do we blame? John Boydu says, don't blame me. Blame all of us. But who led the party? General secretary, chief custodian of the party. Can that be, a botch in his agenda to become general secretary, to be retained to be general secretary? Because really, this would be his second legitimate election. The first one was for him to have held on, and then subsequently he went for an election and won. But what is the scorecard? And if John Boydu is not there, do the other 5 stand a chance? I mean, there's a former member of parliament who wants to also lead. What has he seen? What does he know? What he thinks he can do, particularly in these challenging times when economic situations are tough? People are not so excited literally about the NPP. Talk about NPP, or you mentioned the president, the vice president, they write things off. So this is at the time when the NPP is, if you will, almost unpopular, even within their own support base. Whoever becomes general secretary of the NPP must be coming to the table with a lot of firepower, must be coming to the table with a lot of capacity, must be coming to the table with a lot of conciliatory attitude, drawing people to the center. Because as it is now, whether the NPP campaigns twice or thrice, the NDC seems to be having a free run, looking at how we've gone to IMF and all of that, which also means that the NDC cannot be complacent. So whoever is coming as general secretary, whoever is coming as chairman, whoever is coming as deputy general secretary, organizer, national youth organizer, treasurer, national Nasara coordinator, which is very critical because the Nasara coordinators, for example, are supposed to be handling the Zongos. Now, the government in 2017 set up a whole Zongo ministry. Remember that? Yeah. And then the government indicated at the advent of the second term that the Zongo ministry had achieved, or part of the special initiative ministry, business development, all those ministries had achieved the purpose for which they were set up, and so had to be made an authority to be stationed at the presidency. Yeah. Fast forward, how has that impacted on the Zongos, or the people in the Zongos? That would also be a bigger chunk, because mind you, The NDC is known as the grassroots party. The NPP, as I said earlier, is the elitist party.
Yeah.
But it has wings in the Zongos. How are the party, or how is the party doing in the Zongos?
Well, we were told that, all those ministries, and for some reason, they were not continued again, and that was because they had achieved their mandate, which is why they were scrapped, or some of them were absorbed into some bigger ministries. Zongo ministry was one of them. And so it's a question for the gods, the people who are actually in the Zongos and were supposed to benefit from whatever initiative it was. Did you see any change at all? And that should also inform, your decision moving forward.
Speaking of Zongos, in this country, we do know the likes of Kamal Din Abdullahi, the likes of Alhaji Boniface Abubakar Sadiq in the NPP. When it comes to Zongo mobilization, don't go there.
Yeah.
You switch to the NDC, you're looking at the former MP for Medina, what's his name, Amadou Sorogo and the likes. Don't go there. So within the party, they know. Question is, why was Honorable Abubakar Sadiq moved away from the Zongo ministry and put in the vice president's office? And then subsequently, Mustafa Hamid was moved from the information ministry and put at the Zongo ministry. And if indeed the Zongo ministry had achieved everything else, because they had Operation Cementio Lungu, we will convert Nima into another East Legon, all of those conversations, did that really happen? What is the level of education, attractiveness to education within the Zongos?
Yeah.
All of those conversations come because they are the real bread and butter issues. If I live in a Zongo, and a Zongo ministry is created for me, a Zongo fund is created for me, and then 6 years on, my water is not good, electricity is terrible, my road is bad, my kids are not in school, I will have a big problem. You cannot then tell me that you have achieved what you said you would, because development is about people. And the people who are being developed must be the ones to prophesy and say that they have developed.
Anyway, let's move on, and we'll be speaking to PSA Esther, who's celebrating 20 years in ministry. She has a new one also that's been making waves. Wayemi Ye is what she calls it. She looks ravishing. You don't want to miss this conversation. Stay with us. This is TV3 Newday.